guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with the second half of my November wrap-up. I read 16 books in the last half of the month. I will have my wrap-up for the first half of the month. I read 13. I am 80% into another book that I know I'm going to finish tonight, but I don't want to review it until I've read the last percent, so I will have read 17 technically, but I am really excited to chat about these books. I've read a lot of Christmas stuff. I've read a handful of 5-star reads, and so I'm just going to go ahead and get to everything that I've read so far. So I will link down below my previous wrap-up for the month if you would like to see, but I've been reading a lot of great stuff, so especially the Christmas romances have been surprising because the first one is Holiday Romance by Catherine Walsh. I picked this up because I saw it. I was perusing like Target during their sale and I was like, what is this? And I looked up reviews and didn't have a ton of reviews, but it had good reviews, and I was like, I definitely want to read that because the synopsis sounded so good. Our heroine and hero meet because they are both from Ireland, but they're living in Chicago and they always fly home for Christmas together, and she knows him because he was dating one of her friends who was planning on breaking up with him and had cheated on him. So she immediately was like, I don't want to be around him because I know my friend is cheating on him, and she hates her friend for that, and they aren't friends anymore. But they end up flying together and then they sit together every year after that. So they're friends, but they really only hang out that one time a year. And so then this Christmas, it's been like 10 years they've been doing this. There's a huge snowstorm, they can't get out, and she's determined to get him home for Christmas. So they decide to try and get planes like other places to get to Ireland, and then they get to like England and have to take a ferry, and it's just like a whole mess, and they end up falling in love. And it's so cute. I really loved the holiday season because they are trying to get home for Christmas. I love a traveling romance because then it's forced proximity. They have to stay like with friends in hotels, and it's just like an adventure and a holiday adventure, and it was friends to lovers, and you get flashbacks to the plane rides they take together and how he has been pining. I love a pining hero. I loved this romance so much. It was so cute, perfect for the holiday season. Highly recommend picking this one up. This one I don't see a ton of people talking about, so please pick this one up. The next two, unfortunately, were a miss. So we have You're a Mean One, Matthew Prince, and this one I read for my book club I have with Lacey, Ravished by Romance, and I wasn't the biggest fan. I gave it 3 stars. It was a little boring and long, and I do not love the main character being spoiled and rich, and that's what the premise of this was. So it is an MM romance, which I was excited for, but our hero ended up buying an island, and his parents found out and got mad, and he doesn't have the best reputation. He's like a bad boy and gets into a lot of trouble. So he ends up going to his grandparents' house, and his grandparents have someone living with them. It was cute how he had to like share a bunk bed with him, and they really didn't get along at first, but then they really started growing on each other. But I just like was bored through a lot of this book. It was too long. I did not care about Matthew and all of his drama, and it was just nothing I cared about. So I was listening to the audio and I was just passively listening, just trying to get to the end because I didn't really care about any of the characters. And there was the third act breakup was because of miscommunication. I hate it when the one character tells the other a secret. That secret comes out and they're like, of course you're the one who told. I knew I could never trust you. Played out like word for word, and I was like, this is so annoying because it's obviously not that person, but the love interest thinks it's that person, and then they break up. And then his parents were atrocious people, and I was like, why do we have to have such extremes in this book? So nothing I really loved. More like 2.5 star really. Like, it wasn't like I hated it, but I didn't have fun reading it. So then we have Baggage Claim by, I think it's Juliana Smith. I was really excited to read this, that I got the arc off of NetGalley, and I just love the cover. It sounded super cute. Our heroine is coming home, and she has not been home in a couple years. She does not talk to her sister, and she pretends to have a boyfriend, and she meets a guy on a plane and ends up spilling the whole secret, and he says, I'll be your boyfriend, because she doesn't have a boyfriend. And so they fake date for her family, and she tells him no, but then he shows up because she had told him where they were having dinner that night, and so he decides to show up and say that he's her boyfriend. So he's the one like instigating the fake dating, which is super cute. But there's this huge big secret of why she's not friends with her sister anymore, which is obvious from the moment we meet her, but we don't hear the truth until the end of the book. And I'm like, okay, we knew this at the beginning. Why are we dragging this out so much until the end? And she kept it a secret from the hero, and then he got really mad that she kept that secret, and I was like, I don't care. And then the heroine had some really big body issues that were never resolved or addressed, and I really didn't love how it was handled, because she used to be like a size 12 or something, and she was so confident in her body and just confident who she is, and now she lost like 60 pounds. She has blonde hair, and she never seen without makeup, and like she's so happy because of it. And then it never really addresses that. The only way it's addressed is that she'll now not wear makeup in front of the hero. And I did not love at all how they talked about her body, and it was just weird, and I didn't love how that was dealt with. And so the whole book, I just like, it was fine. I gave this book 3 stars. Like, the romance was just okay, but like I hated that secret and then her whole body image thing that was never resolved. So I don't know if the author wanted to resolve it or not. It was a little weird. So 3 stars overall for this one. Then I read an arc. I read a lot of arcs actually this month. So I read 3 Count by Nikki Castle, and this one is not my favorite in the series. I will say I think I liked books 1 and 2 better. I still give this 4 star. Book 1 is still my favorite, but this one is Aiden's story, and he meets our heroine, and they end up hooking up the night they meet and having just insane chemistry. And the heroine, she does not want to get attached to anybody. She feels like she'd have to sacrifice everything she loves in order to be in a relationship, and she's like, I'm not doing that. I've seen my parents do it. I see everybody do it. Like, no thank you. The hero's also hung up on things that had happened to his parents and like things that he is insecure about, and so he hooks up with her and he can't stop thinking about her, and he's like, I need to be back with this girl. So they meet up again and they start a physical relationship and obviously start falling for each other, but she is like, I'm not dating anybody. And so they have to really delve through their issues together in order for them to be together. He's also an MMA fighter, I think it's MMA, and is getting the chance to have his first professional fight, so it's leading up to that. It's just really, really steamy. Like, there's a scene, I think that she said she wanted to be like a scene in Corrupt, if you know what scene I'm talking about. This was a spicy good time. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I just didn't love it as much as I love Tristan's character in book 1. Then I ended up picking up You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi. I read this because it was on the Goodreads Choice Awards list, even though it didn't make it into the top 10. It was in the top 20. And this is a, not boyfriend really, but like a fling's dad romance. So the heroine is dealing with a lot of loss. This has a lot of depth to this book. It's definitely more serious. And she lost her husband, and she is still trying to recover from that. It's been like 4 or 5 years, and so she hooks up with someone like in the first chapter. So she's trying to get out there again and just have fun and not have any serious relationships, and so she has like a couple flings, and then the one fling decides to take her home to his dad's house so that they can like spend some time together and she can be a guest there, because I think I don't remember what she does for a living. I don't remember, but she can work from home, I think. And so she ends up staying there and meeting his dad, who is a very famous chef that she knows, like she's heard of him. And there is just like an immediate attraction between them. She is like, whoa, what is this feeling I'm having? Even though she's like sleeping with his son. And so then the son has to like go somewhere, and he's like, oh, you can stay with my dad, it's fine. And then she starts hooking up with the dad. And so he also is a widower. So he lost his wife, and of course things are gonna like blow up when the son figures out that they're having a fling. And I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed how the heroine was trying to overcome the accident that happened where she lost her husband and she was still having nightmares because of it, and how she fell in love with this guy she was seeing dad, and how that was all gonna play out. So I love a good boyfriend dad romance. This was really good. I gave it 4 stars. Then this one hurts me. So I did a vlog where I read books that were like Gilmore Girls, and I'll link that down below. It was a lot of fun to do. And so one of the recommendations was a co-op by Tara DeWitt. Funny Feelings, one of my favorite books of the year. I loved that book. This one, I don't know, it felt very, very different from Funny Feelings, even like how the writing was. This one is about a girl and a guy who had a past, and they were hooking up when they were teenagers, and then the hero, they were caught, and the hero says some really mean things, and so she's never forgiven him for it. But he's always loved by everybody, especially their grandmothers, who I believe the grandmothers were together, and they were living together, and both of them passed away, so they left their house to them, both of them, and they have to renovate it in order to sell it so that they can make money off of it. But she has an inheritance that would have helped with them renovating the house, but she has to marry to get it. So they decide to get married as a marriage of convenience and fix up the house together. There was not really a plot to this book. Like, the whole plot was them fixing up this house, but that was really it. And I was like, are we wanting to do something? Like, is there an end goal here? Like, obviously it was fixing up the house, but like that was it. They were just fixing a house. I wanted so much more to this plot, and then she detested him because of what had happened in the past, and I don't know, they were like kind of flashbacks, but not really, so I didn't really get why she was so hung up on him. I'm like, they were teenagers. They just did dumb teenage things, and she was so angry at him about it, and it just was really hard for me to understand their dynamic together. And then I feel like they fell in love really, really quickly, so the pacing in this one was just really off. off for me, and I just didn't care about the plot or the characters as much. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, more like 2.5, 3 stars. I just like loved Funny Feelings, that going into this one I had such high expectations that I just didn't love it. Then I read The Holiday Trap for that reading vlog, and this one is a super cute house swap romance where the one hero and the one heroine end up having really difficult times in their lives where they just want to like get away for the holiday season. So they have a mutual friend who is like, hey, you guys both don't want to be home for Christmas, why don't you stay at each other's houses, because like she has a ton of plants that need taken care of, he has a dog that needs taken care of, they can't just like abandon everything. And so they decide to say yes, and immediately the one hero meets a guy at a plant shop because he's scared that he killed one of the plants, and they immediately click, and he ends up helping out the store owner to help his business, and it's really, really, really cute. And then the heroine ends up running into someone and really, really liking her, and they end up just like getting to know people in town, and she's in the city and the guy's in a small town, like she's in New Orleans, and so she meets so many people, gets to celebrate a lot of parties, and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I do think that the heroine's relationship progressed a lot quicker than I thought it would, and I would have liked a little bit more slow burn there like the hero's relationship was. I think I did appreciate them being at different points on the relationship so it didn't feel kind of redundant, but they both had really sweet conversations, especially with the heroine trying to realize that she's acting like her mother, especially with her love interest. Like she was like, you're being really insensitive, and like I know you mean well, but stop. And so they both had to really reevaluate who they are as people and what they want out of life, and if they're content in their own lives, and it was really sweet. I definitely reminded me of The Holiday, just thinking about like, are they happy with where they are? Where do they want to be in the future? Who do they want to be with? And falling just like madly in love with someone. It was really sweet. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. Then I read my favorite holiday romance so far, and that is 'Tis the Season for Revenge. I've been seeing so many people picking this up. It is inspired by Legally Blonde. Our heroine is dressed up as a bunny to go to her boyfriend's holiday party. He is a lawyer. They've been dating for 4 years. She's like, he's gonna propose anytime. She's a makeup artist, and he sees her and he's like, that's so embarrassing, like I'm breaking up with you. You need to be more serious. I can't do this anymore. And he had been cheating on her the whole time. He was an awful, awful person. And so she's devastated, and she thought she was gonna marry him, but she was just definitely settling because like he was really awful to her. So she is like moping with her friends, and they get her on a dating app, and she matches with his boss, and she is like, I'm gonna date his boss, show up to his Christmas party he's never taken me to for his office, and show him that I can get with his boss. And so she goes on a date with the boss, and he is older. He's like 10 years older. He is the literal boss of the law office, and or like the partner, and he spoils her rotten. He is like, you deserve to be treated like a queen, which is the absolute opposite of what her boyfriend did before. And so she has a lot to overcome with her thinking she's not good enough, with her thinking she has to do everything for herself, how she's inadequate because that's how her boyfriend treated her. And the hero is like, no, you are amazing. And I love their dynamic. It was super, super spicy. Like if you love that, pick this book up. I was obsessed with the romance. I was obsessed with all the Christmas in here. I gave it 5 stars. One of my new favorite holiday romances that you definitely have to read. Then I read Sneaking Around with a Player, which is the second novella in the series. It comes out, I think, in December. I got an arc of it, and this one is about the twin sister to the girl in book 1. And so she, we know, was hooking up with her brother's rival. And so we know they get caught, but we kind of rewind at the beginning of this book. I do think that the first 50% didn't really capture me as much because it was like the first book from a new perspective, and I really don't care about that. I don't love reading like books and new perspectives or anything like that. Like I get it. I know that we needed it because we needed to see her establish this relationship with this guy. They met at the airport and really hit it off and just start kind of an epistolary romance. They start texting and FaceTiming and really falling for each other, and quickly realize though that like he is her brother's rival, and they've been rivals since like they were kids. And so they're both football players, and he actually was responsible. It was an accident, but he really hurt one of their players at the last game, so they hate his guts. And so we know that the brother sees them, but like we're kind of waiting for that until 50%, and then the last 50% is how they're gonna actually make it work and see if the brother will actually accept them as a couple. So I still really enjoyed it. I gave it 4.5 stars. I did love book 1 better. It was a brother's best friend romance, but this one was still a really cute forbidden romance, and I had a lot of fun with it. So if you want really cute novellas, definitely pick the series up. Then I read All I Want for Christmas by Maggie Knox, which I was wary because it has really bad reviews, but I think that their previous book, this author's previous Christmas romance, has just average reviews, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. So this one, though, is a musician romance, and the pacing was weird. I didn't get the chemistry between the characters. So she is a singer and he's a singer, and they go on a singing show together, and they end up being paired together, wanting to win together, and they end up having to fake date so that like they get more votes. And it was okay. We had like really weird time jumps like throughout it too, where a good chunk of the book was when they were on the show, and then like a whole year would pass, and she kept a very, very important secret from him about something that happened in her life that made no sense why she just wouldn't tell him, because it didn't have anything to do with him, but it like greatly impacted her life, and so she like didn't tell him, and it felt very weird, and I just didn't feel the chemistry between them. I can see why nobody's liking this romance. It didn't feel super Christmassy. I mean, they spent a couple weeks in Canada together during the winter, but they had to sing a Christmas song together. I don't know. It was just okay. I didn't love it. 2.5 to 3 stars for this one. Just a little disappointing. I had a lot of mediocre books too. I had like amazing books and then mediocre books. So Across the Moonlit Sea by Marcia Canham I read for Historical Hellions. It's a pirate romance. I gave it 2 stars. My co-hosts love this. They gave it 4 and 5 stars, but I was so bored. This is a pirate romance. She's actually grew up on a pirate ship with her dad, or like, it's not a pirate ship, but like on a ship with her dad, and they end up getting taken over by pirates, but then they end up like working with the pirates, and the hero is like the pirate captain, and she really stands up to him. She like knows how to do cartography and live on a ship, and literally the entire book was just like battle after battle after battle on a ship. And I didn't care. Some guy had stabbed the hero in the back, and so he's like, I'm gonna find him and kill him. And like, that's what the premise of the book was. And I was like, I don't care. And they're talking about like a war with Spain. I don't care. There was not enough romance in here, and it didn't really feel like, even though there were so many battles, it didn't really feel that action-packed, because I was super bored by like, oh look, they're gonna attack this ship again. Like, I don't care. I need so much more plot to the story than just like attacking ships. So I was very, very bored. So bored through most of this book, and I was really disappointed because I love a good pirate romance, but I didn't love it. I'm giving it 2 stars. I completely skipped a book. So in that reading vlog that I did read In the Weeds by B.K. Boris, and I was like, why haven't I talked about this yet? One of my new favorite books of the year. Oh my gosh. So they had hooked up, and I forget, like he was at a conference and she was in town, and they met at a bar, and they ended up having like a really steamy night together, and then they went their separate ways, and now he works at a Christmas tree farm. We saw that in book 1, and she is the social media influencer who went to the farm to try to get some publicity for it. Like, that's what she does. She helps small businesses and really promotes them on her social medias. Well, she really hates her job now. She feels like she's lost her creativity, she's lost her purpose, and so she was like, where was I last happy? And she felt that at the farm. And the town is such a small town that they kind of work together to push them together. So they're like, oh look, nothing's open for you to stay at, but guess what? He's got an open room at his house, so why don't you stay with him? So they end up having to be roommates and fall so hard for each other, especially the hero is so, so sweet. And she's just living life. She's like, I am not going to touch social media. I'm just going to go around town, live a small town life, and he's trying to make the farm successful, and it's adorable. I love them so much. They obviously fall in love with each other, but then he is still wary that she's going to leave, and like he's really concerned that she's gonna leave because she left before when they hooked up, and he has trust issues now, but he's the sweetest. He pines, he falls head over heels for her. I love a hero who falls hard. I gave this 5 stars. I devoured it in like a day and a half. I could not put this book down, and I'm obsessed with B.K. Borison. 2 books by her so far have been 4.5 5-star reads, so I can't wait to read her 3rd one. Then I read The Silent Duke, and this one is a historical romance that takes place at Christmas. Our hero is unable to speak, and he has been treated horribly by his family for that he was actually adopted by his uncle then, because his father was just a horrible person. And so the heroine knew him when they were children. They came up with a sign language together, and she admitted her feelings to him, and he said no. And so she went and married someone else, heartbroken, and now her husband has died, and she is coming out of mourning as a widow, visiting our hero for Christmas. And as soon as she passes this bridge, it gets completely flooded, and so she's the only one who can visit right now, and spends a few nights at his house with just the 2 of them with their servants. But it is like I don't think it was snowed in, but they are like stranded in the house together, forced to confront old feelings, and it was really cute. I do think it was a little slow being like just them confined, because then at the end we do get like more people coming in and then super suspense happening, which I really enjoyed. I just wish like the middle part moved a little faster, so I had to give it 4 out of 5 stars. But it was a super sweet romance. I love how they were falling for each other's children, but then he pushed her away because he feels unlovable, like nobody could love him and he's a burden. But it was so cute, so good. I loved, and she was the experienced one, he was still a virgin, so it was a really sweet historical taking place at Christmas time. I'd recommend picking it up. Then I listened to the audiobook of Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This one felt like a YA novel. So these two fell in love growing up. We go through when they meet. They lived in these cabins next to each other at the lake, and the heroine was being like bullied in school and having a really hard time, so her parents ended up taking her to this cabin, and they go every summer, and she slowly falls for Sam, who lives next door. And then we see them and in the future where his mom has died and they call her to come back, and we know something horrible has happened that pull them apart. Most of this book's in the past, so it really heavily reads like a YA novel, and the future isn't really spent a lot of time on. I feel like only a couple days pass and they really gloss over what had happened in their past, and it kind of made me annoyed what happened in the past, like the big reason that they blew up and weren't able to be together. I just wanted her to go and be with the brother. Like, I was like, just forget this guy who was annoying and the reason why you broke up, and just like go be with the brother who's actually there. So I don't know, but that didn't happen. It was just fine. Like, I wasn't obsessed with this romance. I didn't love it like everyone else has. I'm gonna give it 3 stars. I wish so much wasn't in the past and that we could see more of the present and them overcoming the things that happened in the past that they both did to each other, but that was just glossed over and not really spent that much time on. So I just felt like I was reading a young adult book. I didn't love it. Then I finished this reread last night, and I'm not okay. I finally reread Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood, and I was a sobbing mess last night, you guys. Like, I had the last 250 pages to read. So I got into bed and read the last 250 pages, and for the last 100 pages I was like sobbing. I was inconsolable reading the end of this book, even though I've already read it and I only remembered the end. Oh my gosh, this book is so good. It's so emotional, and the beginning's slow. Like, I was reading it and I was like, gosh, nothing's happening. It's taking me forever to get through the beginning. And my sister reminded me, she's like, the second half is where the action is. Like, you're gonna speed through the end, which normally happens in fantasies. I always speed through the end because so much is happening that like I can't put it down. And so the beginning, though, was necessary for the character building and the world building to get to the point that I got where I was sobbing over these characters, and the romance is so slow burn and so good, and I'm obsessed. So I don't give synopses that well for fantasy romances, but Bryce is half fae and Hunt is an angel, and they're looking for an artifact together. That's all I can say, but 5 stars. I absolutely love this. And the last one that I read is Single and Ready to Jingle, and this one is a really short audiobook. It was like 6 hours. Our heroine is obsessed with Christmas. She's a party planner. She went on a dating app, shows up to her date dressed as an elf because she was going to be late. So instead of changing, she shows up to the date but doesn't explain why she's dressed as an elf and gets really offended when he thinks it's weird, which I thought was weird. And it ends up being her brother's best friend. She's never met him before, but then they start talking and she's like, oh my gosh, wait, did you go here for school? And he's like, yeah. She's like, do you know my brother? And he's like, yeah, we're best friends. And so it goes on from there. They end up, he needs a party planner for his office because his boss's wife is like I think his boss got remarried and she's a lot younger and she wants to impress everybody with the party. And he's like, hey, I know a party planner, even though Christmas is like 2 weeks away. And so he asks for her help, even though their date didn't really end well and they start falling for each other. And it just felt like a generic romance. Like, nothing about it made me excited. Third act breakup was kind of annoying, but it was a cute, like, Grump Sunshine romance. He hates Christmas, she loves it. There's like a misunderstanding when they first started dating, and it's brother's best friend. They have to keep it a secret from her brother. But it was just like generic, like nothing really stood out to me, so I'm giving it 3 stars. I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend it, but if you have nothing better to read, maybe read it, but it didn't really stand out as a Christmas romance. It had the tropes, but nothing super exciting. And those are all the romances that I read in the second half of November. Let me know what you read this month or what you were excited for me to read or your thoughts on these. I would love to hear. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.